Awaken Beauties, finally, it's here. The truth to empower women to true inner beauty through a healthy mind and inner biology. I am your hostess, Cassandra Keel, a 20-year salon owner, organic beauty product formulator, positive mind management, and clinical hypnotherapist. And I am here to help you stay sane, get sleep, and bring your sexy back. Sponsored by evoquebeauty.com. evoquebeauty.com. Now, let's get to it. Welcome to the Awaken Beauty podcast. This is Cassandra, your clinical hypnotherapist, neuroenergetic ADHD coach, and biofeedback practitioner. And that set aside, I am so elated to share this episode with you. So today's episode is going to be a leap pad, my friends, of a myriad of perspectives when linking the ancient and modern day life of a neurodiverse, brilliant human being. Now, when I say neurodiverse, many of you probably haven't heard of this word before, but neurodiversity kind of clumps together a lot of different aspects of different types of minds and those that have quote unquote ADHD. Now, up until approximately about 10,000 years ago, there is a blip on the human evolutionary map that human beings needed to be hunters in order to survive. Now, once agriculture was adopted, the survival landscape shifted. And existence was now predicated upon people staying in one place, doing the same tasks day in and day out in order to provide for themselves. Now, I'm going to be linking all this together, my friends. But before I do go much deeper, I really want to express that it is absolutely my passion to create understanding and a safe place, a space for those fellow empaths and adults with ADHD, diagnosed or undiagnosed, or those energetically sensitive and highly driven entrepreneurs with this existential cognitive overload so they can thrive at work, their business, at home, in their relationships, and also in our social environments. And I believe that we do this first by mastering our energetic biofield, also by up-leveling and starting to integrate the unconscious emotions and beliefs, and instill this quality of whole brain thinking and truly owning our intuition to lead and to run our operating system and finding the right modalities that work for us. Now, for me, I believe in a holistic lifestyle, functional medicine, neuroscience through neuroplasticity. But really, truly, once the energetics and the physiology is right, then we can move into all of the strategies, the systems, the routines, all the healthy habits and the hacks. And why do I care so much about women? Well, when we go into this dialogue today, I've lived, led, and pioneered, and I've made over and transformed many women in my history as a 22-year salon owner. So I've been used to creating organic and holistic ecosystems for women, and seeing the patterns in my own history, as well as supporting through functional medicine internally and beautifying on the outside with our Evoke Natural products, is that it undeniably is true that I found that so many women live a life of silence and put everything and everyone else on the altar resulting in poor health, poor mental health, and ultimately resentment. So they also are a part of a growing statistic of undiagnosed executive function challenges while keeping all of these balls in the air and a life masked with this type A perfectionism to truly hide their executive function issues, which to me, the fact that 4 times more adults being diagnosed with ADHD than children tells us that our brains are on fire. So they hide their ADHD because people doubt the existence of ADHD or misunderstand its complications, which are comorbidities of anxiety, depression, and honestly, a life expectancy that can be up to 12 years shorter. So it's really important that we understand why this conversation and what science I'm going to share with you today is really important, how it impacts our life and how we can look back in the past to really come up to the future and to the present. And so women, especially my friends, we know that we work so much harder when we have complications with either comorbidities of anxiety, depression, or ADHD than the average person, because we always feel that we must compensate for our quote unquote flaws. So I have to ask the question, and it's a question really that is honorable, because we go back to this question of, is it nature or nurture? Is it environmental or is it genetic? And so I'm here to share the incredible good news that it's both. And what I'm going to share with you is incredibly empowering and strengthening to the souls of all of you when you really understand the power of our ancestral connection to each other, the power of a tribe, and how shame and inner passion can be healed quickly. So let's open up the conversation to this cutting edge approach that I found, which isn't so new, and it's based on empirical studies. Now, many researchers confirm that attention deficit disorder, which really isn't a deficit at all, is truly genetic. It's a neurological condition that affects adults as well as children, and it really opens up the question and the dialogue around, is the hunter-farmer theory for real? So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Now, the hunter-farmer theory of ADHD was first proposed by Tom Hartman in 1993 in his book, Attention Deficit Disorder, A Different Perception. And Tom's leading hypothesis is used to explain ADHD, that the symptoms of ADHD carry over the genetic traits inherited from our ancestors. Now, just think about it. We all have a deep history attached to the adaptability of our ancestors, and over the course of history, survival skills have changed. Early humans were hunters. They were gatherers. They were nomads. And Tom theorizes that just as people's talents and strengths vary today, the same humans were better suited for hunting than others back in the day. Now, these individuals were hyper aware, if we think about hunters, noticing every stimulus in their environment. And today we call this distractibility. But as a hunter, if you don't take notice of your environment, you'll either miss your prey, or worse, you become the hunted. So the same applies to impulsivity, which allows the hunter to rapidly identify and seize opportunities, such as an unsuspecting antelope suddenly descending to the waterhole. So taking time for consideration and planning would more than likely leave that hunter hungry as that antelope escaped. So in fact, when examined more closely, we realize that all, or certainly most of ADHD symptoms, traits, tendencies would make a person a better hunter. So over time, with evolution of farming as a way of life, and later to industrialization, different characteristics became better adapted for our survival. So the non-ADHDers or neurodiverse individuals, which Hartman calls farmers, had to work linearly. Let's just call it in a linear fashion. So for the farmer to have a successful crop, things had to happen at certain times and in a certain way, and interspersed with a lot of waiting in between. And so to organize the crops to maximize their yield, farmers had to develop more of this linear thinking. So to go a bit more deeply, Tom Hartman's different perspectives on ADHD and ancestry, he explains why our traits were and are so necessary to make this world go round. So as we've already explored, there were farmers. And as humans raced across the landscape and moved from its earliest ancestors, two basic types of cultures evolved. In areas which were lush with plant and animal life and had a low human population density, hunters and gatherers predominated. In other parts of the world, particularly starting with Asia, farming and agriculture, societies evolved quickly. And going back to these successful hunter mentalities, by pursuing buffalo in North America, hunting deer in Europe, or chasing wild beasts in Africa, or picking fish in streams of Asia, these hunters needed a certain set of physical and mental characteristics to continue to be successful. And they consistently and constantly monitor their environment. If you think about the rustle in the bushes, could be a lion or a coiled snake. Failure to be fully aware of the environment and notice the faint sound might mean a swift, painful death. And even modern hunter types in the United States and Europe, these characteristics take notice of everything. You know, if you continue to move on through time, a flipped stone in a tiny footprint or a distant sound, an odd smell in the air, all things have meaning to a hunter. And even when walking quickly, they notice everything. They can totally throw themselves into the hunt, and time is elastic. And so another good characteristic of a good hunter is the ability to totally focus on the moment, utterly abandoning all consideration of anything else in time and place. So when the hunter sees the prey, he gives chase, though the fields or through the trees, giving no thought to even any other events in the day before considering just having to go after and capture what is at hand in the pure moment and immersing himself in it. And when involved in the hunt, time seems to speed. When not in the hunt, time becomes slow. So while hunter's ability to concentrate in general may be low, his ability to utterly throw himself into the hunt at the moment is astonishing on the hyper focus. So they're very flexible. They're capable of changing strategies at moment's notice. And they can throw an incredible burst of energy into a situation, so much so that they can often injure themselves or exceed normal capacities and capabilities without even realizing it until later. And so not unlike that quintessential of all hunters, the lion, they have incredible bursts of that energy, but not necessarily a lot of staying power to sustain it long term. And given the notice of describing themselves as the tortoise or the hare in the Aesop's fable, a hunter would always say that he or she is the hare. Now, if you think visually, hunters often describe their actions in terms of pictures rather than words or feelings. They create outlines in their heads of where they've been or where they're going, right? So Aristotle taught a memory method like this, which was a person would visualize rooms in a house, then objects in the room. And when he gave a speech, he'd simply move from room to room in his memory, noticing the objects therein, which were his reminders of the next thing that he had to talk about. Jim Quick, my friend, who is a brilliant mind master, he does this through placing different storylines in his own brain. And he uses the different markers walking into an office to explain his story when he's given a speech. We're very, very visual. So hunters often aren't much interested in abstractions, or else want to convert them to a visual form as quickly as possible so they can see that big picture and artistically play it all out. So they tend to be, no surprise, lousy chess players because they prefer to go straight to the end and win in one move, right? It's kind of like in a dialogue. Just tell me what you want to tell me, and then we can talk about all the details. And so they really love the hunt, but aren't easily bored by their mundane tasks. They get so bored, such as having to clean the fish, dress the meat, or fill out the paperwork. They'll face danger that normal individuals would avoid, and they're hard on themselves and those around them. Because honestly, when your life depends on split-second decisions, your frustration and patience threshold necessarily tend to be low. So a fellow hunter who doesn't get out of the way of a shot, or a soldier who defies orders and smokes on a dark night, showing the enemy your position, it cannot be tolerated. So you're starting to see the integrity in our nervous system. So I really loved this thought, and I absolutely believe that ADHDers are descendants of hunters. So the question then, where did ADHD come from? So if you really compare the list of classic ADHD symptoms and the list of characteristics of the good hunters, you'll see they match perfectly. In other words, an individual with ADHD has the collection of characteristics would be extraordinarily a phenomenal hunter. So the modern day ADHD hunter is still best equipped to play the role of the hunter, truly. And it's seen as an artist in search of inspiration, as an entrepreneur in search of a business opportunity, as a firefighter, a police officer, an emergency medical technician ready to react instantly in potentiality of dangerous situations, or an investigative journalist with insatiable curiosity for continuous novelty and sharing the truth. Well, let's hope so. So the non-ADHD farmer now is more at home in a cubicle in today's modern corporation, or one is not better than the other, but just is more able to be in these kind of environments. And their strengths only become symptoms when you try to conform to a lifestyle that doesn't fit your style. So you're not just a hunter, you're a creative, you're a visionary. And quite frankly, you are a super conscious genius that has incredible intuition. Now, numerous brilliant people have achieved a great deal of success despite having diagnosis of ADD or ADHD, and which Ned Hallowell now calls BAST, and which I love. We need to change the word ADHD because BAST is so much more appropriate, and it's variable attention stimulus traits. So appropriate, right? So a small sample of such successful adults with BAST include David Neeleman, founder of JetBlue Airlines and the inventor of electronic plane tickets. Just think back to when plane travel meant dealing with all of the agents and finding the time to collect your printed tickets before going to the airport. What an amazing accomplishment. Now, then there's Richard Branson, the flamboyant and highly energetic owner of Virgin Enterprises, Virgin Records, and Virgin Airlines, and Virgin Radio. It's another renowned entrepreneur with numerous businesses around the world. So many others now recognize their genius lived before our time and likely had adult ADHD. And listen to me, friends, this is such a great list. Known as Leonardo da Vinci, Albert Einstein, known as the Edison gene or the Einstein gene, and Thomas Edison gene, exhibited many of these signs of ADHD. And Einstein had great difficulties in school and was very, very disorganized. Edison was kicked out of several schools and burned down the family barn with one of his inventions, but held over thousands of patents for his inventions and was keen as a businessman and an entrepreneur. So truly, adults with ADHD or VAST who play to their strengths have long distinguished themselves. And many experts agree that some of the most amazing out-of-the-box thinkers probably have been or could have been diagnosed with ADHD, or we should just say this vast variable attention stimulus trait. Whether or not they had ADHD, we will never know since they can't be diagnosed. But exhibiting some of the worst symptoms of adult ADHD, that didn't stop them. So obviously, it's not a scapegoat and used by stupid people. And so as a creative genius, you will succeed once you embrace your strengths, pursue your passion wholeheartedly, and realize that your weakness is so many you have that you think that you have, is just a neuroenergetic difference. And I say, and I really applaud women that come into my space, and we give them a test. What is your energetic dominance, so that you can understand what are your strengths, who do you need around you to support you, so that you can play the infinite game, not the finite game. Because entrepreneurship and creativity and getting into the game of life is about getting in the game and staying in the game. So it's really being fine-tuned to our energetics, our superpowers, our emotional resilience, our holistic health, and how we take care of our self-care. And that we celebrate, and I celebrate, that your brain delivers an endless flow of ingenious, inventive, inspired, and often really quirky, fun ideas to the marketplace and to friends and social environments. And when an idea excites you, you have the ability to hyper-focus as you create a new passion project or a new business or a new idea, art or invention that astounds and serves everyone around them. Now that's something to celebrate, my friends. So I hope that you enjoyed that first introduction, let's call it, of the hunter-farmer theory. And in future, I'm going to be going over what is the appropriate diet that really serves us best. Why is it that when we go to school and told to sit and learn and listen, it doesn't work for the hunter type? So really, this is just an introduction to this novel research, epigenetic link back to our ancestral truth, and how it links and why it's so in alignment with those that have ADHD or VAST, which is variable attention stimulus trait. So with that said, my friends, I hope you enjoyed. Please let me know your thoughts, tag, and make sure that you share with every brilliant brain that you know. And I look forward to hearing and seeing you in our communities, and we'll see you on the next podcast. And until then, stay sane, get sleep, and always bring your sexy back. Well, hello, Awaken Beauty. Thank you so much for joining the show today. Were you inspired? Please leave a comment or your own personal aha moment so others can capture exactly what you did. Also, please like and subscribe wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And if you're interested in high quality natural products for your hair, skin, and wellness, including organic CBD, please visit evoquebeauty.com. Again, that is evoquebeauty.com, evoquebeauty.com. And until next time, darling, stay sane, get sleep, and bring your sexy back.